110x, I assume these PRs were merged. So let's see, this one, we talked about it last week. This one, terms could not be saved. So Matteo fixed a bug to save the terms in some specific condition. Then this one, fix the image profiler manager, returning profile path even if the image creation has failed. From Carl. Don't remember exactly what the issue was. Yeah, maybe this one. Yeah, okay. If there is no image, if the image creation failed, then handle it in a better way, apparently. Or probably return the original image if the filter failed, and not a null image, something like that. Or the opposite. Yeah, no, that's it. If it failed, then it returns the null, so it won't take into account the new thing. To just render the correct image. Okay. So that's it for Orchard 1, Orchard 2, Orchard Core. I need to rename this folder. What do we have? Nick worked on the jsonapi / GraphQL. Chris, this is his branch. We talked about it last week. We'll talk about it today. Jean-Thierry about the embedded branch, so that every module is embedded, every resource is embedded. We can talk about it. He demoed it to me, and we talked about it for about 2 hours on Friday. So I have some updates, and that's it. Antoine, what did Antoine do? Try out custom theme, so custom theme for documentation, I assume. That's it. It's a branch. We'll see that. This is Antoine, and then updated bootstrap-slider and Trembowig version. Yes, I haven't tried it to see what's new, but yeah, probably nothing important. Fixes. We should look at the release notes, but that's fine. So no big changes, but Jean-Thierry also and Nick, who made some progress. Antoine, do you have some demo with the documentation?
No, because I don't manage yet to generate it on Readthedocs using the custom material theme.
Are you blocked, or are you making some progress?
Yes, but I guess I am blocked by Readthedocs. The MPDocs version that they use, or I don't know. I'm stuck.
Can you find an issue on their site just to see what they have to say?
There are some issues about the material theme, and they say it's not really supported on Readthedocs. Yeah.
That's weird.
I could find a way, but I made many tries, and I always have some build issues.
So it's build issues.
Errors reading the npdocs.yml file. I set the language, and it's still saying config.theme.language is nil, something like this.
Okay. Can you find an issue on our repository with the log and the trace, so I will try to look at it.
Okay.
So that's it. Nick, demo.
I want to make the changes that you and me talked about yesterday after I demoed. Yeah, I want to do that first before I demo.
Okay. Then. So because Chris is here, we'll just talk about his issue, his PR. So Orchard Core. I have a suggestion, but I want an agreement. Pull request. Can can talk about also the pull request. So this one first. This one from Chris. Last week he created, as a reminder, we talked about it last week, to be able to access the public URLs from a media item. In this case, this change is about adding a property public URL, okay, on the view model. So that will make it available in the views for the Razor and also for Liquid. But Liquid, we don't need that because we already have a Liquid tag, which is asset URL. I'm not sure you mentioned it here. No, but we have a tag. So what I would suggest, Chris, let me know if you disagree, will not be to add public URL on the view model, but to behave the same way as in Liquid with the tag helper, to render anything as a public URL, to actually call the service to make it a public URL with the media, like asset URL or something. So we don't expose the service actually inside this view model, because this is actually just calling the service, even if we don't need it. And this was intentional, to just show the path, the actual data, and not, yeah, I know it might sound weird, but that's how it works by default, even if you do a Liquid. So to create a custom tag helper to render these media items, or these media URLs.
Yeah, I can do that.
I don't know what it would look like as a tag helper. Maybe an attribute tag helper. I don't know, like instead of like something like asset-src, and if we detect that, then okay, it's asset src and not src, and it will set the src attribute, but using the service.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Okay, and then you had the same question actually today on Skype for queries, which is how do we run a query from a Razor view? Because in Liquid there is I think it's documented, must be documented.
It is, yeah, it's in the documentation.
Yep. So yeah, so we have that. We have pipe query with a text. So we probably need the same thing in Razor. So what can we do in Razor? Do we have? So right now we will have to resolve the service and call the service to get the result of the queries. Do we need something easier? Do we need an HTML helper? Does it make sense as an HTML helper? That might be a solution actually to make things. Yes. So from a Razor view, you want to execute a query. So a tag helper might not be interesting in this case. I don't know how it will work because we need a variable with the results, the list of results. So maybe we could have some extension methods on something, I don't know what, but on something, so we can do dot query with the name, and the result is a list of elements that we can for each and render dynamically. That would make things easier than tell people, hey, resolve this service and call this method. Maybe, I don't know.
Just before this call, I've put some thoughts down on this in an issue I've just linked to. I'll just put it in the chat. So I went down the route of a tag helper.
For queries?
Yeah. So it kind of shows how it would work with the items. So this assumes that you're pulling back content items. I know that might not necessarily be the case.
That might be, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, well, and then you can just render them. Yeah, that's kind of limiting. So I'm not sure tag helper is the good solution here.
So if you put on the page base class, say if you put a query method in there that would return something.
Yes, you could do that on the base class, but then that's too intrusive in the base class. But what we could do is an extension method on the base class. So we will just need to do a using that will, and if we are clever, it could be a using that is already used everywhere, and then it will appear magically. See what I mean? Like when you do, so today there are some HTML helpers, so you can do HTML dot, I don't know what you can do, like display for, this is from MVC, okay? So maybe what we need is a helper to do things like this, like orchard dot something. And then we have query, we will have orchard dot, what we have, media URL, you see? So because these things, they are easy, they are actually doing like at inject query service, I'm not sure, okay, like query service, and then you do query service dot execute query. I'm pseudocoding here, but recent blog post. And then the result here, you do var results equals. So this is what you're doing, but to go to that, you have to know what you're doing, and it's kind of coding, it's not templating, it's kind of sad. So if we had some helpers like this, where you could just do var results equals orchard query recent blog post, that will be easier. And what we can expect is that because we have a helper, just by doing dot with the IntelliSense, we will see what we can access. Oh, you can call the query, you can call the media URL, and things like this. That might be easier. And yep.
If those methods are extension methods, would you not struggle to get a hold of the services that you need?
No, because the extension method will have access to this thing, which could have the current request, HTTP request, HTTP context, and then you can resolve the service you need from that.
Yeah, got it.
This thing could be a specific class, okay, or a specific object that is defined in the base class. Or we can also do extension method to the current base class, but then you will have type query, and there is no gesture to trigger IntelliSense, unless if we have something like called orchard dot, and then it triggers IntelliSense just to have what we can do, helpers for orchard. It might not be called orchard, I don't know, but just an idea. Because there might be some conflict with the namespaces and everything. Or helper, like orchard helper, something like that, or ISO helper, I don't know, template helper, whatever. But just to have something that will trigger, and that will trigger the IntelliSense, and also be a place for all the modules to provide helpers for reserved views. The same way they provide liquid tags that are useful for templates, and that will resolve the services for us. We could have that. Simplify the Razor template creation, because we'll have everything here and it will be documented, and that will be nice with IntelliSense. But we'll need to reference, so from the view that needs that, if it's a theme, the theme will have to reference the package that adds that. Does it make sense? We need to try to see how.
Yeah, but if your theme wants to use a query anyway, it kind of needs to know about queries, so I don't think that's a big deal.
It's not a big deal, just maybe there's even better solutions that will find it automatically. Like for instance, we know tag helpers, they are found because we just have a declarative file that says include this tag, this star, and they appear automatically. Maybe there is the same thing, or maybe it's just at using somewhere in a file to add and it will appear. I don't know. Well, at least we can still reference the module and it will work, but I was just wondering if there was a way to make it easier. But yeah, I think something like that. To run the query, to get the media URL if we need. Not saying that the tag is not useful, we need the tag is useful, but if we could also expose the media URL, well, let's call it asset URL to be consistent. Asset URL, you know, for something.
Okay.
It might be automatic if we add an extension. If you can try, if you add an extension to the base class, will it just appear automatically when we type query, or should it be, yeah, or this should be a property. So template helper should maybe a property on the base class, and we create extension method on the type of this property so that it will appear automatically. I mean,
yeah, but like you say, I think you might need a reference to the module that contains that extension method.
Maybe. At the same time, we can make templates which reference. Yeah, that's it. We'll check. We'll see. Maybe it doesn't actually need that reference. I don't know.
Okay, I'll have a play about and see what I can come up with.
I can also ask the guys from Razor what maybe they have tricks to do things like this. Okay. Yeah. So. Suggesting. Good. So that is answer the two PRs. I think that's a good solution. And do you understand now what query is compared to projection? I didn't follow Skype. I was on something else. Do you agree with what query?
Yeah, I saw the. Yeah, so previously, because projections was
declarative.
Yeah, it was tied down to content items as well. Because I noticed that the SQL query, it has a tick box to say whether or not it returns items, content items.
So by default, it will return the raw SQL that you ask for as columns, as properties. The columns as properties in a document, in a JSON document. But if you say, hey, I actually want content items, the content items associated to the query I'm doing, then it will return JSON documents that are the content item versions that you selected. That's because usually you will want content items and not just raw data, but it depends on what you need, so it's just a tick box. So this way you get just the data, there is no rendering associated with that. If you return content items, the rendering is implicit because you can then, from your template, say display, build display, okay, because we have helpers on Razor and Liquid to render a content item for a specific display type, or you can just use the data as is in the templates. That's it. And also automatically with each query, there is an API endpoint that is created that you can query as long as you enable the permission for each query, because there is a global permission for all the queries and for each query to be executed for each role, for instance, anonymous. So you could allow anyone to execute a specific query and return the documents or the JSON object directly as a REST API. So this way you can expose any data you want as long as you can express the query in SQL. And there is the same thing for Lucene. So if you want to do full text search or other things from using Lucene, you can express a query in Lucene and also expose it as an API or in the templates. So I think it's quite Powerful. And you can also add your own querying logic if you want. So this is a query source. So we could imagine other things like based on other DSLs, something specific for content items that will take names of parts, expose the parts. It could be graphical, like projection. So we could build a UI to build content item queries based on metadata. That will work too. We could even expose GraphQL itself as a source of query. So you could type a GraphQL query to expose the data directly from the server side. Nick, good idea?
Yeah, I like it. Sounds good.
With the GraphQL editor, we could make that. We could make that actually. It's kind of crazy idea, but that would work because we will have IntelliSense and everything. GraphQL is a DSL to do the query. Then that's great. Actually. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's more powerful than projection. And there is no limit. The issue with projection is that what was again this word from Bertrand? There was a gap between when you use projection and you were limited by something, and then you had to go back to code and do everything by code, because you will hit a limit with the projection. With SQL, you will have less limits. That's the idea. Faster too, because direct SQL, so you can optimize the queries if you want. Cliff, thank you. Every time. Okay, other questions? The other PRs, maybe a quick look just to see what's happening here. This I reviewed, again some comments. So this is like the HTTPS, the SSL module we have in Ocean 1 from Bertrand. So Pete made one, and this one is actually simpler and but does the job. And the goal is that the option is enable or disable SSL. You can specify the port and if you want permanent or not permanent redirection. And from that, as long as you check the box, all the requests, if they are not an HTTPS, will be redirected to HTTPS. It's not from a specific page. Once you go into HTTPS, you will stay on HTTPS. No, it's the traffic is HTTPS, so it forces HTTPS everywhere. So that's good. And it's using the rewrite middleware from ASP.NET already. So it's not much code, so it's more robust. We don't have to maintain this one. So this one is good. One or two little refactoring maybe to apply, and it will be merged. SSL. I also commented that we might want to add to take this issue into consideration. This issue was created in June, security headers, to add supported security headers automatically or based on options. So that might be part of the same thing, like a security module where you can enable SSL or enable these headers to protect your website. This is, well, protect. Best practice for browser headers. To prevent abuse of your site. That and the last PR was this one, OpenID update with the new OpenIddict packages from Kevin. I'm reviewing it and I'm doing this thing which is missing. I updated YesSQL to support things like this. So now with YesSQL you can do inner selects from other indices. So if you want to filter one index from another index value, you can do that now. You can do easy index, and well, when you will need that, you will see that you need to do something like this. So it will be obvious. So this one to update OpenID, and then we can reference OpenID module from the web app because everything is in NuGet now. So that's the goal, to reference the NuGet packages. Yes, that will be an awesome module also to provide in Orchard to support Let's Encrypt. The first, and there are two things. There is all the settings to issue the first certificate, and then also an option to renew it automatically. Something we support, and that was one reason was for that, is that we can serve static files for each tenant. I don't know if you remember, but a month ago, just before we shipped, there was an option to we enabled an option to a feature actually to serve static files per tenant from the app data folder. And the idea is that each tenant will have different domains, and this way we can serve a .well-known folder for each tenant independently, and this folder is used by Let's Encrypt to provide proof of ownership of the domain and the website. This way we can make a module that will generate this proof automatically by communicating with Let's Encrypt, and put this file in the .well-known file, the .well-known folder, and then Let's Encrypt will request the domain and find it correctly, and then issue the SSL certificate to you, and then we can store the SSL certificate either here or in any storage in a store, and then use it. Might require a restart of the service, maybe. I have to check. Maybe Kestrel. Maybe there will be an issue with Kestrel. I'm not sure. Maybe it can't work actually. We have to check. But at least we can support the generation of these files. Yeah, maybe Kestrel won't support that. Or maybe it doesn't support multiple SSL certificates, but supports one. I have to check. Yeah, this one for OpenID, and I think that's it. And the older ones I will look into also. This one I could show you, but there is not much to show. There are some implications with this thing. So the nice thing is that there is no more packages folder which is created on build. There is a folder which is created on publish only, but that's it. Also, a nice / bad thing is that all the static assets like CSS, scripts, they are not on the file system anymore if they are part of a module. In your theme, the same thing. So when they are published, no, they are all in an assembly, and they are served from the assembly automatically. It's cached, it's in memory, so all the static assets like this are in memory, which is not a big deal because it's shared across all tenants. We tried the performance impact, and it's actually faster because there is no file access at all. It's all in memory, so it's faster. Well, what did we see? It was as fast actually, but it was taking less memory somehow, which yeah, that's interesting. Or less CPU. Yeah, it was taking less CPU. So less I/O because it was in memory, so it was better. It was scaling better. So that's indirect impact. But yeah, that's good. So we should merge it soon. Once it's done with some refactoring to optimize the performance of some components, we can merge it, and there will be less magic to support static files. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah, then I will review every PR. It should be quick. Other questions? Then we are good. What's up? Nothing more. No, nothing more. Looking for more PRs and merging PRs. That's it. Good. See you on Tuesday or on Thursday.